Hello, and welcome to the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. I'm your host, Lauren, the Outdoorsy Diva. Thanks for joining. Hello, adventurers. How are you all? Hope you are off to a fantastic spring. I know I am. So today we're going to get into a bit of a serious topic. It's one that's super important that I definitely don't think gets enough attention and enough limelight, particularly in the Black community. So May is Mental Health Month. It is the month that is nationally recognized to bring awareness to mental health prevention, and mental health illnesses. One thing that is really important to me is to do my part to remove the stigma and the shame that's sometimes associated with mental health. There's no shame in admitting that sometimes you're just not in the healthiest of mental spaces. And this can be caused for a myriad of reasons, but one of the most common triggers for mental health issues and triggers for managing your mental health illnesses is stress. And let's face it, we all have times in our lives where we feel stressed, where we feel overwhelmed, and this might lead to feelings of anxiousness, dealing with anxiety, sadness, depression. And so these are just human things that we have to deal with, and it's part of life. But what's important is that you're cognizant and you recognize that your mental health is something that you should be intentional about. It's just as important as your physical health. So if you eat right and you eat all your vegetables and you're really conscious about getting the right vitamins and all these different things, but you pay zero attention to your mental and emotional well-being, then you might as well be doing those other things for nothing. You can't have one without the other. You can't have a healthy body and a crap mental state. That just doesn't work. So, one of the ways that I have found to keep myself in a very positive mental health space is nature. This is what drew me to nature for the very first time. I remember going to visit my best friend in northern Alabama. I believe it was like Tuscumbia or like some little town you've probably never heard of. And we were recommended by one of her coworkers to go and check out the waterfalls in the area. And we were both like, waterfalls in Alabama? Really? Okay, so that's a thing. Let's check it out. So we set out to find these waterfalls. And we did. And we were instantly hooked. We wanted to see more, do more, hike them. And we would do that. And one of the great things about waterfall chasing would be hearing the sound of that rushing water before you even see it. And then once you see it, and then you want to get close to it. So you find a path to hike down to the bottom, to the shores of the pool. And just that sound, that serenity of that rushing water, for me, was life-changing. And that's when I first became self-aware that I really had this deep connection to water, as I'm sure a lot of other people do. For me, it's re-energizing, it's calming, it's soothing. It's almost like an instant reset for me, if you will. Like, I don't know, it's kind of like the sound of water. It just has this ability to instantly calm me down. I can feel it. Like, I feel my heart rate slow down. I feel my breathing slow down and get to a nice even pace. So just the sound of water for me does something physically and emotionally to me, let alone the sight of the water. And then if it's a safe place where you can swim with this running water, oh my God, I know you can like hear the joy in my voice, right? So for me, nature has become my therapy over the years. And I realized that, being a single mom, becoming a parent, just before my 19th birthday was stressful, as I'm sure you can imagine. I was also a college student at the same time. So there would be a lot of times early on in that parental journey where I just felt completely overwhelmed. I felt like the world was on my shoulders. I felt like I have this other little human that I'm completely responsible for, and I'm alone. And there were many, many times where I felt like I was just going to have a nervous breakdown. Like I thought, I can't possibly handle or cope with or deal with anything else. And so in those days, what I would do is go to the park. I'd go sit on a pond or something. I was going to University of South Florida, and they have some beautiful grounds and parts of the campus that I'm not even sure some people are aware of, but there are places where there's ponds and bridges going over the ponds, and you have the ducks and swans in the lakes, and it's just complete serenity. And so even then, even though I wasn't conscious that it was nature I was seeking out, I just knew that when I was outside, when I was outdoors in nature, in some scenic setting, I felt better. And so that's what I did. So now in this journey that I've been on, having Outdoorsy Diva, having the blog, becoming more outdoorsy, I've learned that, it's something that is necessary for me. Being outside is not even something I would consider a luxury. Like for me, having that time with nature has become an absolute necessity. And I think it's important for other people to find what does it for them. Nature may not be it for you, but I would definitely recommend that you give it a try. There are lots of studies that have been done in recent years that show that nature, a connection with nature, forest bathing, you'll hear those terms, hiking, just being outside, that people who have a connection to nature generally are able to handle and decompress their stress levels better than people who don't share some kind of connection with nature. So how about that? The research supports it. And if you know what helps you to alleviate things that are, stress triggers and things that make you feel mentally unhealthy, then you can seek out and be intentional about doing those things. I had the distinct pleasure of being asked to participate in an episode of the BBC Earth podcast. I'm actually featured on their episode called Speeding Up and Slowing Down. And on that episode, we talk about how my love of nature and travel is something that was life-saving and life-altering for me in terms of keeping my mental health intact. On that episode, I go into how I went to the Azores as my first international trip. And the reason that I took this trip was because I was facing a breakup. This was back in 2015. And I knew it was going to be really stressful, something really hard that I had to be prepared to deal with. And I just wasn't in a good place, like emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I was a hot mess, y'all. So I found this trip, booked it, and left. Like, you could look at it as running away. And sure, that's what I did. For the time being, I just had to get out of there. I left my ex in charge of the kids, and I'm like, you got it. I'm going for a week and I'll be back. And to date, I would say one of the best decisions I've ever made in my whole entire life was taking that time that I needed to go and reset myself and taking that trip. And the Azores turned out to be like the perfect place for that kind of mental reset because it's just gorgeous. It's beautiful. You have mountains and valleys, and the greenery is just spectacular. And you have waterfalls and thermal pools that are naturally occurring because there's so much volcanic activity. There's a lake called Cidade, which is blue on one side and green on the other. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon that's due to algae or something to that effect. But it still is a complete mind trick for you to be standing there looking at these two bodies of water side by side. And with your naked eye, you can clearly see that one's green and one is blue. And it was on the shores of that lake that I just had this extreme cathartic moment with me and nature and God about, how beautiful everything around me was, and the realization that all of this beauty came from destruction. It came from volcanic activity that completely destroyed and wiped out the life and everything that was in that area. And then it reformed and basically repurposed this chaos into this beauty. And that just really spoke to me that, if God could do that and he could make such beauty out of such mess and such destruction, that what I was facing in those terms was small. Not that it's any less important, but in terms of my spiritual faith, to God, it was small. And it just kind of gave me that reassurance that everything was going to be okay. So I talk about that on that BBC podcast, Earth episode. And I was just so grateful to have that platform to share that message about how healing and cathartic and therapeutic nature can be with, literally millions of other people. Like, what a blessing. And I knew that I had to also be sure to highlight this with my own audience, with my own platform on the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. So, that trip just changed my life. And that's why I'm such a proponent of doing things to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I know that it may seem counterintuitive, right? All hell is breaking loose. And I decide to go out of the country to a place where I don't speak the language, never been before, by myself as a woman. Like, when you say it out loud, you're thinking you're crazy, like you're out of your mind. But I think, to me, it was repurposing or rechanneling my energy to solve like another problem, right? And it was something that I knew would be beneficial to me. So there's absolutely nothing I could do about the collapse of my relationship and the way I was going to need to restructure my finances and my heartbreak that I was suffering at the time. And what I was going to do about my son and helping him through this transition. Like, those things at the time were things that I just could not deal with. I couldn't wrap my mind around those things. But what I could do was plan this adventure for myself and then tackle it and go for it and push myself out of my comfort zone. And as Will Smith has said, I love watching his Instagram stories and his videos. There's something about pushing past fear and what you get on the other side of that. And until you allow yourself to be uncomfortable and push to that other side, you really don't know what you're capable of. You really don't know just how strong your mind and your spirit is until you push yourself in a completely different direction that ordinarily, your sane, normal persona probably wouldn't have taken on. So I digress. I think that nature is just one of those wonderful gifts that we've been given, and far too many of us don't appreciate it and don't take the time to use it to its full potential. So if you're just kind of in a down space and you feel yourself overwhelmed, I encourage you to seek out nature, seek out some scenic space. And this can be a regional park or just a city park. It could be your backyard if that's what you have, as long as it's quiet and serene. State parks, we have those. We have national parks. We have actual land set aside to be undisturbed and remain pristine. And so utilize that, because let me tell you, it's a lot cheaper for me to pay $4 to go visit my favorite state park than it is to book a therapy session. Use that as a supplement. I'm not saying it's a replacement, but definitely use it as a supplement just to kind of keep you maintained. It's a maintenance tool for your mental health. And just to segue into, therapy, definitely I'm a proponent of therapy. I've sought out therapy for years, and I think that it's one of the best decisions I ever made. I didn't start until I was well into my early 30s. I think I was about 31 the first time I went to see a therapist, and I wish I had known sooner. I'm a proponent of therapy, of life coaching, of whatever it is you need to basically get you together and keep you in a good mental space and help you make better decisions, help you be self-aware, and keep you from continuing in destructive patterns and destructive habits. I'm a complete proponent of that. So what are some other ways that I maintain my mental health? Well, travel. I've seen really cute shirts and things that say travel is my therapy. I definitely 100% am in support of that. The Mental Health America website actually put out some really interesting statistics for Mental Health Month. And one of those that really struck me was that of adults employed full-time in the United States, nearly 40% report working at least 50 hours per week, and 18% work 60 hours or more. Listen to that. 50 hours per week. That's a lot to sustain. And of those people, that they surveyed, 75% of those people are afraid of getting punished for taking a day off to attend to their mental health. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Half the people who responded to the survey say that they do unhealthy things and have unhealthy habits as a way of dealing with stress. So things like drinking, drug use, lashing out, taking it out on others, unhealthy eating are ways that they cope with workplace stress. So, let's face it, if you work a regular 9 to 5 type of job, you're working more than you're with your family, you're working more than you're with your friends. We spend more conscious, awake time at a job than we actually do at home. And so if you have a job that is literally soul sucking and just draining you and sucking the life out of you, it's taking all of your energy, it's taking all of your creativity, it's taking all of your patience to go to this job because you have to make a living, right? That's adulting. But it's just really sad to read these kinds of statistics, and especially to hear that people are really afraid of getting punished for taking a day off of work. That is just absolute crazy. One of the more positive statistics was that people who feel they have a good work-life balance are more satisfied with their job and their life and experience fewer symptoms of depression and anxiety. So how you achieve this healthy work-life balance? You have to make it happen. Fortunately, I work for somewhere who encourages work-life balance. I'm able to work from home part-time. Right now I work from home once a week. There are others who work twice a week. It's my desire, honestly, to be able to work full-time remotely, but that's another story. But even just that one day a week does so much for me to be able to disconnect from people. So I'm still working, I'm still getting my job done, but on that day, I'm just more focused when I don't have to interact with people. I just need a reset. I think naturally, I'm an introvert. I'm kind of an extroverted introvert, if you will. But if you're just not one of those people who are lucky enough to be able to work from home certain days of the week, then you should absolutely be looking to find ways to just find some kind of work life balance, even if it's on your lunch break, being sure that you disconnect and don't just eat at your desk. But most importantly, take time off. It baffles me to see people sit on these banks of vacation and let them just roll over year after year after year. I'm like, oh my God, like how? How do you not take any time off? I just don't understand it. I don't. Like, for me, I've never been that person who felt this fear or anxiety around taking off work, right, wrong, or indifferent. I've just always felt like my time off is my time off and I'm going to use it and I need it. And I wish more corporate cultures were supportive of their people using their time off, and that you weren't made to feel like you're slacking or not pulling your weight because you decide to take the vacation time that you've earned, not given, but that you've earned, especially if you have a job where it's paid time off. I mean, really? And I get that not everyone has that benefit of paid time off. For some people, time away means you're not getting paid. And I get that, but it's still important. And you gotta do it. You gotta step away. You can't live to work. We work to live and to make a living, but you can't live to work. It's just not healthy for you. So I always try to have at least one significant trip in the year. And then I am notorious for having lots of little small mini weekender type trips from, just Friday to Sunday. And I'm a huge, huge, huge proponent for staycations. So wherever you are, if you can go somewhere that's even in your own city or just within an hour or two of where you live, but you actually go book you a room or a campground or whatever it is and get away, then do that. You can't always look at life as being one big responsibility after the other. Like, what are you working for if you can't enjoy it and if you can't use the benefits that you're given? You know what I mean? So I'm a proponent of that. I know some people struggle with that because it's just not something that's in their work culture or, in their DNA. They're just taught and watched mom and dad work themselves into an early grave, and that's what they do. But now is the time to stop that cycle. You don't want your kids to grow up seeing you prioritize work above everything else, including them. And that's one thing that I can honestly say that I've stayed true to, with being a mom and motherhood and juggling that corporate balance. Sure, I may not be as far along up that corporate ladder as I could have been, but I was just not willing to give up certain things involving my son and my ability to be there for him. And we always took time to go and do something. His spring breaks, his winter breaks, even when I was like super broke, was not making a lot of money, single mom, we would still just find things locally that we can do. And the age that we live in with so many resources, we just have no excuse for not taking time to strike that work-life balance and make time to just go and explore and disconnect and see other things and see your state, see your city where you live, see the world. Like, life is just too short. That job will be there. And what it does when you allow yourself to disconnect is not that it makes your stressors go away, right? So annoying Sally and, nagging Nancy will still be there when you get back. That major project isn't going anywhere. It'll be there when you get back. So it's not that taking a vacation is going to alleviate your stressors, right? But what it will do is allow you to change your perspective. It's going to allow you to focus on something else. It's going to allow your thoughts to expand to other things, and you'll get clarity. You may even get fresh ideas on how to tackle something you've been trying to resolve for months, but just stepping away from it just for a little while could be enough to give you that fresh idea of, oh, I got it. This is how I can tackle that problem. So it's great to get away from your deadlines. And let's face it, people. A lot of us, for many of us, our major stressors in our workplace are toxic people, whether it's coworkers or bosses or managers or customers and clients. We deal with toxic people on a daily basis. And sometimes you just need that time to purge, purge that negative energy that you've been collecting from your interactions with all of these toxic people, by going on a trip, having a vacation, even if it's a staycation, or even just a mental health day. If it's just one day that you plan, you say, I'm taking off, and you just go do something that brings you joy, that makes you smile. It's important. I probably take a mental health day, like just one random day to do whatever. At the very least, I have 2 of those a year. I really try to plan for them quarterly. Honestly, just honest. I don't go into any great detail. I don't tell my boss, hey boss, I'm taking off for my mental health day. No, I say I put in a request to be off on such and such a day, and they approve it, and I go on with my life. They don't know that I'm probably going to Disney World that day, or that I'm going to hike a new park, or that I'm going kayaking that day. It's none of their business. I don't need to tell them where I'm going. I'm taking a day. I have a day to take, and I take it. And I just feel so much better when I come back. I'm refreshed, I have fresh ideas, and I'm probably a lot nicer. And the last thing I was going to bring up about ways to maintain your mental health is to consider social media fasting. This is a topic that has gotten quite a lot of popularity in recent years, because we just live in this age of information overload. And I know I'm a blogger, right? Telling you to fast from social media, when 99% of the time I'm pushing you to social media. I'm like, hey, check out my Instagram, listen to this, go to this website, check me out on Facebook. That's usually, as influencers, that's what we do. But I don't think it should be all consuming. Like, I know people who literally cannot go a day without being on social media. And that can bring on unneeded and unnecessary stressors in itself, because you go on Instagram and you see these pictures and everything looks perfect and picturesque, and it looks like everybody's living their best life, and life is great, and everyone's happy, and why is everybody on a beach except for me, and woe is me? And then it turns into a self-loathing and a comparison party. And that's when it becomes unhealthy for you. If you find yourself looking at social media and doing so with constant comparisons of, my life isn't like that, so my life sucks, or I'm not where I need to be. Look at her. We're the same age, or she's younger than me. And look at where I am. My life sucks. Oh, look at her. She's got a man and she goes on all these trips with her husband, and I'm single and I don't have anybody and my life sucks. You see where I'm going with this, right? There's a pattern here. If looking at social media and looking at what other people are doing and saying and how they're living their lives starts to make you think that your life sucks and that you're inadequate in some way, then it's time to step away. And that's okay. It's time to take a break and come back to it, with a little space and time. I've gotten a lot better about scheduling things on social media, so it doesn't require me to actually log in. So I don't need to log into Instagram every single day. I don't need to log into Facebook every single day. I definitely don't log into Twitter every day. And to be honest, like, the internet is full of trolls and attention seekers and some really mean people. A lot of y'all are miserable. I'm just going to say it. You can just offer your opinion or your perspective and people attack you. And for some people, that can bring on anxiety. It can bring on sadness and self-doubt, especially if you're not someone who's confident within yourself. I always say the ability to tell somebody F you and move on is a skill and a gift that everyone should have. But some people don't have that. Some people take other people's words and criticism and they internalize it. And then it starts to make them feel bad about themselves and who they are. That's not healthy. That's not good for your mental space and your mental peace and your spiritual well-being. So every now and then, disconnect. And again, we're talking about habits and this being a way of life, as far as you being intentional about protecting your mental health and your mental space. And so if your kids and your children and your family see you being intentional about doing these things, then hopefully they'll do it too. So if you're intentional about saying, hey guys, phones away, we're not doing any social media stuff today. As a family, we're going to go do XYZ, all phones, off. Think about that. If it becomes routine for them that every now and then this is what we do, that I don't have to take a picture of every meal. I can just eat and have a conversation with my friend or my family or my companion, then they will make that a habit and it won't become this obsessive thing. And I think social media is great. Don't get me wrong, for many and varied reasons. Let's be honest. Like, I made money from social media, but I have a platform to share with all of you because of social media. Social media allows me to stay connected with friends I've had since I was 5 who live in other states, friends in other countries. It has made our world smaller and more connected, but at the same time, disconnected. So it's about balance, as is everything else in life. It's about striking a healthy balance, and it's about moderation and knowing when too much is, in fact, too much. So I really hope that this has been helpful for you, that it makes you think, that it makes you conscious about what am I personally doing to protect my mental health and my mental space and my mental peace. Am I being conscious about being mentally healthy? Am I making my mental health a priority in my life? Those are questions that I really want you to go back and ask yourself. So just to recap, nature, great untapped resource that you should consider to keep you mentally healthy and reset you. Planning trips, staycations, taking mental health days from work, finding a work-life balance, other ways for you to reduce the stress in your life. Therapy, finding a therapist. Therapy for Black girls, great resource that can help lead you to finding a professional to help you. Also, many of us have EAP resources and benefits through our jobs, the employee assistance programs. You may even have free therapy sessions that you're missing out on and you don't even know that it's a benefit that you have. So look into that. See what your job offers in terms of resources that can be helpful for you for your mental health. I know at my job, they even have mindfulness sessions on a weekly basis that are hosted by employees, and everyone gets together and they're teaching you all about the practice of mindfulness and meditation. So those are other things you can do. Just find that thing that works for you, whether it's mindfulness, meditation, yoga, exercise. A lot of people find that going to the gym is a great way to relieve stress and it keeps them mentally healthy. So, and then the other thing we talked about was social media fasting, taking a break and just disconnecting from the world every now and then to allow yourself a breather. I just really hope that this episode is going to be a catalyst for many to make mental health a priority. I would say, let's not trivialize this, right? There are some things that a walk in the park just ain't gonna fix. And I get that. There are some people who are dealing with serious mental illness that needs to be diagnosed clinically. So I would encourage you to seek professional help if that's what you think you need. 1 in 5 Americans suffer from some kind of mental illness. And so there is no shame. There's only hope. I will have some resources down in the show notes for you to get more information about mental health awareness and about getting a personal mental health screening. You can go to mentalhealthamerica.net. You can check out NAMI.org, the National Association of Mental Illness. You can also check out mentalhealth.gov. I will have all of that information down in the show notes for you. And each one reach one. Share this message, share this podcast. Just talk about this with your girlfriends and your homies about, hey, are you good? Are you okay? And what are you doing to keep yourself mentally healthy? Be intentional about who you allow into your space, who you allow into your heart, who you allow into your home. Understand that you don't have to prioritize other people's needs or feelings above your own mental health and your own mental well-being. So be well, and we will catch you on the next episode of Outdoorsy Diva. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, make sure you subscribe to the Outdoorsy Diva podcast. Be sure to check out Misadventures of an Outdoorsy Diva blog on outdoorsydiva.com. You can also keep up with me and my adventures, so check out all of my social channels. Find Outdoorsy Diva on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest.